I still remember the exact shade of blue on that conference room wall when Dominic Valerio told me I lacked vision. Dominic, who hadn't worked a day in his life before Daddy gave him a corner office. Dominic, who'd spent more time in Ibiza than in investor meetings. Dominic, who was now telling me after 8 years of building his father's company from the ground up that I wasn't innovative enough to lead the Phoenix project. We're looking for someone who can truly revolutionize the industry, Alara. He leaned back in his chair, expensive watch glinting under the fluorescence. Your ideas are reliable, but reliability doesn't disrupt markets. 8 years. 8 years of missed birthdays, canceled vacations, and 4 a.m. troubleshooting calls. 8 years of being the first person Vincent Valerio called when the servers crashed or when an unhappy client threatened to walk. 8 years of building Valerio Tech's entire infrastructure while Dominic was busy failing out of 3 Ivy League schools on his father's dime. I understand. I didn't. I really didn't. Who will be leading Phoenix instead? Matthias Crane. We poached him from Nexus Labs last month. Of course, Matthias move fast and break everything. Crane, the industry darling who made flashy prototypes that never actually worked when it came time to deliver. I'd cleaned up after his disasters twice in my career already. I nodded, gathered my things, and walked out without another word. In the hallway, I ran into Vincent, CEO, founder, and father of the year. Ilara, just the person I wanted to see. He clapped me on the shoulder. Server issue in Berlin needs your magic touch. Can you handle it tonight? I looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the man who'd praised my work for nearly a decade while consistently promoting others above me, who called me the backbone of this company, but never the future of this company. Actually, I just got out of a meeting with Dominic. My voice sounded distant even to myself. He removed me from Phoenix. Vincent's face fell, but only for a second. Ah, well, Dom has a vision for that project. You know how passionate he is. He squeezed my shoulder. But this Berlin situation, I quit. The words surprised even me. You what? Vincent blinked, rapidly. Alara, don't be dramatic. Whatever Dominic said, we can work through it. You're invaluable to us. Invaluable, but not irreplaceable? I asked quietly. I've built everything you're standing on, Vincent. Everything. And your son just told me I lack vision while you're still expecting me to put out fires tonight. Now, Alara, my resignation email will be in your inbox in an hour. 2 weeks. Notice, I'll document everything for transition. As I walked to my desk, my phone buzzed with a team notification. The Phoenix project launch had been officially scheduled, exactly 16 days from now. 2 days after my last day. Something cold and determined settled in my chest. For the first time in 8 years, I wasn't going to be reliable old Ilara, fixing everyone else's messes. No, I was going to show them exactly what lack of vision looked like. The 2 weeks that followed were surreal. I documented everything meticulously, almost everything. There were certain backdoor protocols I'd built years ago that I conveniently forgot to mention, emergency access points that only I knew about. Not because I'd planned anything malicious, but because Vincent had once told me to create insurance against hostile takeovers. Ironic. What shocked me most was how quickly they all moved on. Dominic strutted around the office with Matthias, their golden child, showing him off like a new trophy. Vincent called me twice about server issues, but never once mentioned my resignation or tried to convince me to stay. On my last day, my team threw me a small party in the break room. Ryota, my right-hand developer for the past 5 years, pulled me aside. "This is insane," he whispered. "Phoenix is going to crash and burn without you. Matthias keeps changing the architecture every other day, and none of us can keep up." "That's not my problem anymore," I said, though my stomach twisted at the thought of my team struggling. "At least tell me you have something lined up," Ryota asked. I did. 3 offers, actually, all from Valerio Tech competitors who'd been trying to poach me for years, but I hadn't accepted any of them yet. I had unfinished business. "I'm taking some time off," I told him. After the awkward cake and forced well wishes, I packed up my desk. 8 years fit into one cardboard box. As I headed toward the elevator, Vincent emerged from his office. "Ilara, wait." He jogged over, looking uncomfortable. "Listen, I know things ended abruptly, but you've been an instrumental part of this company's success. I waited for more. An actual apology. A real acknowledgement. It never came. I just want you to know that you'll always be part of the Valerio family, he finished, extending his hand. Family. Right. The family that discarded me the moment the prodigal son wanted to play with his shiny new toy. I shook his hand anyway. Good luck with Phoenix, Vincent. We're going to change the world with it, he said, eyes gleaming with the familiar manic enthusiasm that had once inspired me. You'll see. I'm counting on it, I replied. That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by job offers and a half-empty bottle of wine. My phone kept lighting up with texts from former colleagues, some genuinely sad to see me go, others fishing for information about my next move. I ignored them all and opened my laptop instead. The Phoenix Project would be unveiled at the annual Tech Innovation Summit in 2 weeks, a gathering of every major player in the industry, plus media, investors, and influencers. Tickets had been sold out for months, but I didn't need a ticket. What I needed was the server access I still had through those undocumented back doors, and the intimate knowledge of exactly how fragile Matthias Crane's revolutionary architecture really was. I wasn't going to sabotage them. I wasn't that person, but I was going to make damn sure they couldn't erase my contributions or my vision from what was about to happen. The days after leaving Valerio Tech passed in a strange haze. For the first time in years, I slept past. 6 a.m. I took walks in the middle of the day. I called my sister Nadia, who'd gotten used to me missing our weekly calls. You actually quit? She asked, shock evident in her voice. I thought they'd have to bury you in that server room. I should have done it years ago, I admitted, watching people stream by outside the cafe window. Normal people with normal work hours. So, what's next? Google, Apple, that startup that's been courting you? I stirred my coffee. Not sure yet. Taking some time to think. What I didn't tell her was that I'd spent the past 3 nights monitoring the Phoenix development through my backdoor access. Things were worse than I'd imagined. Matthias had convinced Dominic to completely overhaul my original architecture, a stable, scalable foundation I'd spent 18 months perfecting, in favor of something flashier but fundamentally unstable. The team was working around the clock trying to patch together his vision, but the entire system was held together with digital duct tape. It would look impressive during a controlled demo, but the moment it faced real-world conditions, my phone buzzed with a text from Ryota. Kill me. Another all-nighter. M changed the security protocols again. I shouldn't have responded. I should have blocked the number and moved on. Instead, I wrote back, "What's he doing to the security layer?" Ryota's response was immediate. "Replacing your distributed auth with some revolutionary blockchain thing. None of us understand it." Dom loves it, though. Of course he did. Blockchain was the magical buzzword that made investors salivate. Even when it made absolutely no sense for the application. You should leave too, I texted. Can't. Signed a new contract with golden handcuffs. 2-year commitment. My stomach sank. Ryota had a family. Twin daughters starting college next year. He needed that money. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my team, locked into contracts, being forced to build something that would inevitably fail. About Vincent, who genuinely believed they were about to change the world. Even about Dominic, who despite everything, was still just trying to prove himself to his father. By morning, my plan had crystallized. I didn't just want to crash their product launch. I wanted to save it. But on my terms, I called Zaria Kapoor, CEO of Quantum Metrics and one of the people who'd been trying to hire me for years. "Ilara, please tell me you're calling to accept my offer," she said instead of hello. "Not exactly," I replied. "But I do have a proposition for you." "I'm listening." "How would you like exclusive early access to analyze the Phoenix Project's architecture before Valerio Tech unveils it?" The silence on the other end told me I'd hooked her. Quantum Metrics was the leading software analysis company in the industry. An early look at Phoenix would be priceless. "That would be interesting," she finally said. "But how would you arrange that?" "I built it," I said simply. "Most of it, anyway. And I want you to help me fix what they've broken. In exchange for a job, but not just any job. I want to head up your new systems integration division, the one you've been talking about launching for the past year." I could practically hear her mind working. "And Valerio Tech would never know it was you who helped us?" "They'll know," I said. "Eventually, but by then it won't matter. The Tech Innovation Summit was held in a converted industrial space, all exposed brick and steel beams with blue accent lighting that made everything look like it belonged in a sci-fi movie, perfect for unveiling the future of technology. I adjusted my visitor badge, courtesy of Zarya, who'd registered me as part of the Quantometrics team, and scanned the crowd. The place was packed with the usual suspects: venture capitalists in expensive suits, tech journalists clutching tablets, social media influencers staging candid shots by the elaborate displays. And there, at the center of it all, was the Valerio tech booth. Twice the size of any other company's space, with a mysterious box-shaped structure draped in black cloth. The Phoenix, waiting to be unveiled. Vincent stood nearby, holding court with a group of investors. Dominic hovered at his side, nodding along to whatever his father was saying. Neither of them had spotted me yet. Nervous? Zarya appeared beside me, offering a flute of champagne. I took it gratefully. Not nervous, just ready. For the past 2 weeks, I'd been working with Quantum's team, using my knowledge of Phoenix to develop what we were calling Phoenix Rising. Essentially, a patch that would fix the fatal flaws in Matthias's architecture while preserving the innovative elements. That actually worked. The code was loaded on a secure server, ready to deploy the moment Phoenix inevitably failed during its demonstration. Our team is in position, Zarya confirmed. The moment they hit trouble, we're ready to swoop in. I nodded, taking a deep breath. This wasn't about revenge anymore, though seeing the look on Dominic's face when he realized what had happened would certainly be satisfying. This was about proving my worth, about showing that true vision wasn't about flashy promises, but about building something that actually worked. A hush fell over the crowd as Vincent stepped onto the small stage set up near the Phoenix display. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice boomed through the speakers. For decades, we've talked about the disconnect between human creativity and machine execution. Today, Valerio Tech is proud to present the solution that will bridge that gap forever. The black drape fell away, revealing a sleek console. Matthias stepped forward, tablet in hand, looking every inch the tech visionary in his designer glasses and perfectly tailored blazer. Phoenix is more than a product, Matthias announced. It's a revolution in how we interact with technology. No more coding, no more complex interfaces. Just pure creative thought, translated instantly into executable programs. He gestured to a volunteer from the audience. Think of an application, any application, and describe it in simple terms. Phoenix will build it for you in real time. The volunteer, a young woman who looked thrilled to be part of the demonstration, stepped forward. How about an app that translates bird songs into music? Matthias beamed. Perfect. Now watch. He entered her request into the tablet. The Phoenix console hummed to life, its surface displaying lines of code being written in real time. The audience gasped appreciatively. I checked my watch. 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, the console froze. The code on the screen stopped flowing. Matthias tapped frantically at his tablet, his smile becoming increasingly fixed. Just a small calibration issue? Vincent jumped in smoothly. Happens with breakthrough technology. But I could see the panic in Matthias's eyes. This wasn't a small glitch. This was the fundamental architecture flaw I'd warned about months ago. The system couldn't handle the complexity of real-time generation without proper stabilization protocols. The audience began to murmur. Investors exchanged concerned glances. And there, at the edge of the stage, Dominic stood frozen, watching. His grand vision crumble in real time. It was time. I nodded to Zarya, who immediately began typing on her phone. Within seconds, the Phoenix console flickered, and then miraculously came back to life. The code began flowing again, faster and more elegantly than before. Matthias stared at his tablet in confusion. This wasn't his doing. The birdsong application completed its build and launched, filling the venue with beautiful, synthesized music based on a robin's call. The audience broke into applause. Vincent, ever the showman, recovered quickly. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Phoenix Project. As the crowd surged forward to get a closer look, I caught Dominic's eye across the room. His expression shifted. From relief to confusion to dawning recognition as he spotted me, I raised my champagne glass in a small toast. The game had just begun. What did you do? Dominic cornered me by the refreshment table 30 minutes later, his voice low but intense. The demonstration had continued flawlessly after our intervention, with Phoenix performing increasingly complex functions without a single hiccup. I have no idea what you're talking about. I selected a canapé, examining it with exaggerated interest. Don't play dumb, Ilara. That system crashed. Then it miraculously fixed itself with code that Matthias doesn't recognize. His eyes narrowed. Somehow, you got access to our project. I met his gaze steadily. The project I created, the one you kicked me off of because I lacked vision, that project. Before he could respond, Vincent appeared, clapping his son on the shoulder. Incredible success. We've already got 3 potential investors asking for private meetings. He noticed me and faltered momentarily. Ilara, didn't expect to see you here. I'm with Quantum Metrics now, I said, gesturing toward Zaria, who was deep in conversation with a group of tech journalists across the room. Vincent's smile dimmed slightly. Ah, well, good for you. Dad, Dominic cut in urgently, we need to talk about what just happened with Phoenix. Ilara somehow saved your asses, I supplied helpfully. Vincent looked between us, confusion evident. What are you talking about? Before either of us could explain, Matthias rushed over, his face flushed with excitement. Vincent, the response is incredible, but I need to understand how... He stopped short when he saw me. What's she doing here? Apparently, Dominic said through gritted teeth, sabotaging our launch. I laughed, the sound genuine. If I wanted to sabotage you, I would have let Phoenix crash and burn on stage. Instead, I fixed it. Fixed it? Matthias looked offended. There was nothing to fix. My architecture is flawless. Your architecture is a house of cards, I countered. The only reason it's still standing is because I deployed emergency stabilization. Protocols through the backdoor access Vincent asked me to create 3 years ago. Vincent paled. The contingency system? You still have access to that? Among other things, I confirmed, and it's a good thing I do, or your revolution would have ended in public humiliation. Dominic's face had gone from angry to calculating. So, what do you want? Money? Public credit? I smiled. I want what I've always wanted. Recognition of my value. You're blackmailing us, Matthias accused. No, Zaria interjected, joining our little group. She's offering you a lifeline. She extended her hand to Vincent. Zaria Kapoor, CEO of Quantum Metrics. We'd like to propose a partnership. Vincent shook her hand automatically, still processing. Partnership? Phoenix is brilliant in concept, Zaria explained, but its infrastructure needs work. Work that, coincidentally, Ilara is uniquely qualified to provide, especially now that she's heading up our new systems integration division. I watched the realization dawn on Vincent's face. A joint venture? Quantum handles the back-end stability and security, I explained. Valerio Tech gets all the glory for the creative interface. Everybody wins. Except me, Matthias muttered. You'll be credited as lead creative developer, I assured him. Which is where your talents actually lie, building beautiful front ends that people love to use. Let me handle the architecture that makes them work reliably. Vincent was already nodding, the businessman in him recognizing a favorable deal when he saw one. We should discuss this further. Dad, Dominic protested. We can't just let her dictate terms after what she did. After what I did? I turned to him, 8 years of frustration finally boiling over. What exactly did I do, Dominic? Build your father's company, train your development team, create the foundation for Phoenix that you're now taking credit for? Or was it fixing your disastrous launch that offends you so much? The silence that followed was deafening. You've always seen me as the help, I continued, more quietly now. The reliable worker bee who would solve all your problems while you played visionary. But here's the truth. Without worker bees like me, visionaries like you are just people with expensive dreams and nothing to show for them. To my surprise, Vincent chuckled. She's got you there, son. He turned to me. I always knew you were brilliant, Ilara, maybe too brilliant. I was afraid if we gave you too much control, you'd eventually realize you didn't need us at all. So, instead, you pushed me away until I left anyway, I pointed out. Brilliant strategy. Vincent had the grace to look embarrassed. Not my finest moment, I'll admit. Zaria checked her watch. The formal partnership announcement is scheduled for tomorrow morning's session. I suggest we all take the evening to review the terms my legal team has prepared. She handed Vincent a folder. Unless, of course, you prefer to try explaining to your investors why Phoenix keeps crashing every time it processes a complex request. The partnership announcement rocked the tech world. Quantum Valerio Alliance reimagines software development, screamed the headlines. Stock prices for both companies soared. Industry analysts called it the collaboration of the decade. Behind the scenes, things were more complicated. Vincent embraced the partnership enthusiastically. He'd always been able to pivot when it served his interests. Matthias reluctantly accepted his new role, focusing on user experience rather than architecture, especially after I walked him through exactly how many critical flaws existed in his original design. Dominic was the holdout. During the tense negotiations that followed the summit, he barely spoke, watching me with a mixture of resentment and, if I wasn't mistaken, grudging respect. 1 month after the launch, we held the first joint development meeting at Quantum's headquarters. As head of systems integration, I led the session, outlining the roadmap for Phoenix 2.0. The distributed processing framework needs to be completely overhauled, I explained, pointing to the diagram on the screen. Right now, it's handling about 20% of the capacity we promised in the marketing materials. That's impossible, Matthias objected. My tests showed at least 60% throughput. Your tests were run in ideal conditions with minimal data complexity, I countered. In real-world applications, the system bottlenecks almost immediately. She's right, Ryota confirmed. He and half of the original Phoenix team had transferred to my division, following the partnership announcement. We've been patching it constantly since release. The meeting continued in this vein, with technical discussions and occasional tense exchanges. Throughout it all, Dominic sat silently at the far end of the table, taking notes and observing. After we adjourned, he approached me as I was gathering my materials. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice lacking its usual arrogant edge. I hesitated, then nodded. My office. We walked in uncomfortable silence to the corner office I'd been given, a space 3 times the size of my old workspace at Valerio Tech, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Nice view," Dominic commented, hands in his pockets. "What do you want, Dominic?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "To apologize, I guess, though I'm not very good at that." I raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. "You were right," he continued, looking pained by the admission. "About Phoenix, about the architecture, about a lot of things. And I was an ass." He met my eyes directly. "I've spent my whole life trying to prove I'm not just the boss's son, that I actually belong in this industry. When Dad put me in charge of Phoenix, I thought it was finally my chance to show everyone what I could do. By dismissing the person who built it," he winced, "I convinced myself you were too cautious, that your approach was solid but uninspiring. I wanted to make a splash. You certainly did that," I remarked dryly. A hint of a smile crossed his face. "Yeah, well, nearly drowning in public will adjust your perspective." He paused. "The thing is, I've been reviewing your original Phoenix designs. The ones from before Matthias came on board. They were brilliant. Better than what we're building now, in many ways. This surprised me. Then why are we still working with Matthias's framework?" "Politics," Dominic shrugged. "Dad's too proud to admit we made a complete U-turn. But I was hoping." He trailed off. "Hoping what?" "That maybe you and I could work together. Quietly implement more of your original vision while letting everyone save face. You get to build what you always wanted, I get to learn from someone who actually knows what they're doing, and the companies both benefit." I studied him, looking for the catch, the angle. But all I saw was exhaustion, and something that looked remarkably like humility. "Why should I trust you?" I asked finally. "You shouldn't," he admitted. "I haven't earned that. But I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for a chance to prove I can actually contribute something valuable." I thought about it. Working with Dominic would be challenging, given our history. But the idea of salvaging my original vision for Phoenix was tempting. "One condition," I said finally. "You come work here, at Quantum, 3 days a week. As a regular team member, not management. You learn the fundamentals that you should have learned years ago." He blinked in surprise. "You want me to work under you? If you're serious about learning, yes. If this is just another power play, then we're done here." For a moment, I thought he would refuse. His jaw tightened, and I could see him wrestling with his pride. Then, to my surprise, he nodded. Deal. But Dad's going to lose his mind? Probably, I agreed, but he'll get over it when he sees the results. As Dominic left my office, I felt an unexpected sense of, not closure exactly, but possibility. The path forward wasn't what I'd imagined when I'd decided to crash their product launch, but maybe it was better. I picked up my phone and called Nadia. Hey, stranger, she answered. Still changing the tech world? Actually, I said, I think I'm finally building something that matters. 1 year later, I stood in the wings of another stage at another tech conference. This time, however, I wasn't plotting disruption. I was preparing to present. Nervous? Ryota asked, adjusting the small microphone clipped to my blazer. Terrified, I admitted. Public speaking isn't exactly my strong suit. You'll crush it, he assured me, just like you've crushed everything else this year. On stage, the MC was introducing Phoenix Ascendant, the third and most ambitious iteration of the project that had started it all. Beside me, Dominic was reviewing last-minute presentation notes, his casual confidence a stark contrast to my anxiety. Remember, he said without looking up from his tablet, when they ask about the breakthrough in natural language processing, let me handle the high-level vision stuff, and you dive into the technical architecture. Yes, I remember the plan we've discussed approximately 50 times, I replied dryly. He grinned. Just making sure. We both know what happens when we don't communicate clearly. The past year had transformed more than just the Phoenix platform. My role at Quantum had expanded from systems integration to chief technology officer after Zaria was headhunted by a major tech conglomerate. Dominic had surprised everyone, especially me, by becoming one of our most valuable team members, combining his natural charisma and business instincts with the technical knowledge he'd finally committed to learning. Our weekly arguments were legendary among the development teams, but so were our breakthroughs. 2 minutes, the stage manager called out. Dominic set down his tablet and turned to face me. Before we go out there, I just wanted to say thank you. For what? I asked, distracted by a last-minute slide check. For crashing our launch, he said simply. Best thing that could have happened to all of us. I looked up, startled by his sincerity. Even though it cost your father controlling interest in Phoenix? Especially because of that, Dominic laughed. Dad needed the wake-up call as much as I did. He's actually building new things again instead of just acquiring other people's innovations. It was true. The partnership had eventually evolved into Quantum taking the lead on Phoenix development, with Valerio Tech focusing on specialized applications of the technology. Vincent had initially resisted the shift, but now seemed reinvigorated by the challenge of finding new directions. And now, please welcome to the stage the architects of Phoenix Ascendant, Chief Technology Officer Ilara Reeves, and Lead Product Strategist Dominic Valerio. The applause washed over us as we walked out together. Under the bright lights, facing hundreds of industry peers, I felt a moment of surreal clarity. This, standing on my own terms, recognized for my vision, was what I'd worked for all those years. As I began my portion of the presentation, I caught sight of Vincent in the front row, watching attentively. Beside him sat Zaria, who'd flown in specially for the event. My team filled an entire section, Ryota giving me an encouraging thumbs up when our eyes met. Phoenix began as a dream of seamless human-computer collaboration, I explained to the audience. But like many dreams, its initial implementation hit reality hard. A knowing chuckle rippled through the crowd. Our near disaster and subsequent partnership were industry legend by now. What made Phoenix Ascendant possible wasn't just technical innovation, I continued. It was recognizing that true vision doesn't belong to a single person or company. It comes from combining different perspectives and strengths. I glanced at Dominic, who nodded slightly. Sometimes, I added, the most visionary thing you can do is admit when someone else's vision complements your own. The presentation continued, flawlessly. The demo received a standing ovation. During the Q&A, Dominic and I fielded questions with the easy rhythm we'd developed over months of collaboration. Afterward, at the reception, Vincent approached me with 2 glasses of champagne. Quite a journey from that first launch disaster, he said, handing me one of the glasses. Quite a journey from being told I lacked vision, I countered, but without malice. Vincent laughed. One of my many mistakes, though I maintain that without that particular blunder, we wouldn't be standing here today. Celebrating the most successful joint venture in tech history, I asked. Celebrating growth, he corrected. Yours. Dominic's? The company's mine. I studied him, this man who had once been both mentor and obstacle. You know, for years I thought you held me back deliberately, that you saw my potential as a threat. I did, Vincent admitted candidly, but not for the reasons you think. I recognized your brilliance from day one, Alara, but I also saw myself in you. The obsessive dedication, the willingness to sacrifice everything for the work. I didn't want that life for you. So you passed me over for promotions and let your son dismiss me? I asked skeptically. I made mistakes, he conceded. But look at you now. Running a division on your terms, building what you want to build, and, unless I'm mistaken, actually having a life outside the office for the first time in years. He wasn't wrong. The boundaries I'd been forced to establish after leaving Valerio. Tech had stayed with me, even as my responsibilities grew. I no longer worked weekends. I'd reconnected with friends. I had dinner with Nadia every Sunday. Are you trying to take credit for my personal growth? I asked, amused despite myself. Not at all, Vincent replied. Just appreciating the unexpected outcomes of failure. Sometimes getting exactly what we think we want isn't what we need. Across the room, I spotted Dominic deep in conversation with a group of developers, gesturing animatedly as he explained some aspect of the new platform. Catching my eye, he raised his glass in a small salute, acknowledgement of how far we'd both come. Two unexpected outcomes, then, I said, clinking my glass against Vincent's. Later that night, as the event wound down, I found myself alone on the venue's terrace, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Ryota. Team, heading to celebrate at the loft. Coming? Before I could respond, the door opened behind me. Dominic stepped out, loosening his tie. There you are. The team's heading out to celebrate. You joining? I smiled. Just about to answer that exact question. But yes, I think I will. As we walked back inside, Dominic said, You know, I've been thinking about the next evolution of Phoenix. Already? We just launched this version. That's how vision works, right? He grinned. Always looking ahead. True, I acknowledged. But maybe we take tonight to celebrate what we've already built before we start tearing it apart again. Deal, he agreed, though I reserve the right to text you at 3 a.m. when inspiration strikes. And I reserve the right to ignore you until business hours, I countered. As we joined our waiting team, I reflected on the long, strange path that had brought me here. From being dismissed for lack of vision to defining the vision that was now reshaping an industry. From crashing a product launch out of wounded pride to building something I was genuinely proud of. Sometimes the most disruptive act isn't tearing something down. It's building something better in its place.